the way.
There are a lot of changes. I know culture also plays a big role when it comes to transfer of values. I don't know, Aisha, what was it like for you growing up? Did culture play a big part of, your growing up?
Yes, culture did play a big part of my growing up. I grew up in a conservative society.
Okay.
Growing up in Kano in the 70s and 80s. So culture did play a part because it's not just your parents then that guide you. A neighbor can find you doing something on the street and beat you and take you home and report you. But I guess these things are almost non-existent now. People I think we've grown overprotective of kids these days, and so you actually don't even find kids playing on the streets like we used to. Then I think it was much safer than to play out with the neighbors' kids. But now the things have changed so much now. Internet and so many other things influencing adolescence right now. So
Titi, I think it's safe to say you're the youngest in the group, right?
Yes. So
was growing up for you, were you like sheltered, or did they let you go play next door with the neighbors' kids?
It was more of you go to school, you come back home, and go wherever dad and mom says you should go.
Okay.
So it was very, should I say, I had this direct transfer of values from them, okay, other than anywhere else. And if you had to do anything that was not in line with what they would approve of, you surely get the knockers for that. They're really not going to be happy with you, and you don't want dad and mom screaming at you and coming out at you like, this is not what you were told. Where did you get this from? And then that's going to be another chapter in the house. So for me, I was much more kept in the house. You only go out with them. You go to wherever they want you to go to. But there have been times they let us stay at someone's place, and it was quite easy to pick up other habits that were not what they taught us. Yeah. So that's where the question of where did you get that from comes in. Yes.
That's interesting. Doctor, I know back then, like she said, some member of the society can come and whack the bum of a child.
Yes,
but
right.
These days, even in preschool, if a child is disciplined, the mom can come and give the proprietress and everyone in the school a very hard time, just because of some sort of discipline that the child received. What's happened? What has changed over the years?
When we stopped looking at things that are important. Okay, I grew up in a conservative family, like she said. We had a regime, we had a routine of you wake up, you go to school, you come back, you have your lunch, you take your siesta, and then you go to the library, and then you come back. And then parents had authority. We could tell our children what to do. They told us what to do, and the fear of my mother was the beginning of wisdom. If I did anything, I would prefer you report me to my father, not to my mother.
Okay.
Because she was the disciplinarian in the house. And you grew up with the fear of God and the fear of your parents. Today, we are too cosmetics in some of our upbringings. That you read about parents go to schools to tell the teachers who probably corrected their children or their words off because they were harsh. And what do you call being harsh or strict with this child? Because you scolded the child, you gave the child a timeout, and they wouldn't even want to know what the children did.
Yes.
Now, there's a book, Raised by a Village, like what she mentioned earlier, Raised by a Village. You expect that elders will tell you off when you do something wrong anywhere, whether in the village, whether in your school. But today people are too conscious of talking to another person's child, and then we are getting so much from outside the family. We're getting so much from the internet. Even before they get to using the internet properly, they get from peer pressure from schools. You have children that are coming from families or homes where parents do not have that time to inculcate the discipline and the behavioral pattern that will help them live with other people, the society. And then if you have a child that is weak, because most children are vulnerable as well, they succumb to this pressure.
Okay.
And then you find out that the children are beginning to listen to their friends more than to their parents.
The parents.
And then most times they don't have relationship with their parents so close that the parents probably do not know what they do outside the home environment.
Yeah, but do you think that the parents back then spent more time with the children than right now? It seems like parents today don't seem to have enough time with the children. For instance, the issue of language. A lot of us, a lot of women my age, don't really remember to speak their language, their mother tongue with the children, and it's affecting it's affecting the generations to come, because they can't really relate when you take them to the village or Christmas time or whatever holiday it is. They can't relate like they would with members of the family that speak more of the language than others. What do you think, Aisha?
Yeah, you find the most widespread and acceptable language being spoken in most homes is English, not the mother tongue, or not the native language. So as you said, yes, parents are more conscious of making sure that the kids learn the English language more than anything else. Maybe because that's what you need to get by in the society and in the world, because wherever you go, you'll be understood and you can communicate. But then I believe that's a mistake. We should have time to teach our children what we grew up with.
Okay.
So when I told them, yes, encourage them to speak English, correct their English, make sure it's good, because they need it in school. They need it to be acceptable or to be able to communicate anywhere they go to. But we also need our native languages. We can't let it go.
Yeah. Titi, what was it like growing up for you? Was there a lot of Yoruba in your household, or not really?
There was a lot of Yoruba in my household, and that was one basic language that was used in communication.
Okay.
My mom is not a Yoruba woman, she's from Delta State,
okay,
but she speaks Yoruba fluently, and you'll think she's a Yoruba woman. And my dad speaks Yoruba a lot too. People in the neighborhood will speak Yoruba, relatives speak Yoruba. But maybe I was a naughty girl, but I don't want to call myself the bad girl, because I wouldn't respond to you in Yoruba. I don't know why that happened, and that was not very good. And there are always complaints, why don't you always speak Yoruba? We're speaking to you and you're not speaking Yoruba. But I remember that when I was about 3 years, 4 years, the children in the neighborhood that speak Yoruba, whenever we're playing together, we speak it fluently. I speak it very well with them. Well, primary school, secondary school, that changed, but I will never want to make the mistake of being with grandma and she's speaking Yoruba and then respond in English, because she'll be, no, this is unacceptable, you must speak your native language. So actually your native language is a representation of your culture. It shows that this is where you're from, so it's necessary to speak your native language. It's necessary for you to now speak it.
What's your Yoruba like right now on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like very good? Would you say you're 8, 9?
I should give myself an 8. I should give myself an 8. An 8, yes.
Dr. Chidima, what about you?
The problem, of course, fluent 10.
No, I'm talking about your children.
Okay, yes. Some of them we would say 9, 8, 9.
Okay.
Some you would put at 5. Some you would put at 4.
Okay.
But the problem is not just that the parents do not have the time, or they are not there to speak in their native tongues to these children. But we also work, and then you hire helps. You have carers at home,
yes,
who do not speak that language at all. Maybe you are Igbo and your carer is from another tribe, and then she speaks her language. So the only form of communication is with the English. So they speak English to your children, whatever level of English they speak to your children. And then they go to school, they speak English. You see, so and you come back, you have a little time to communicate with the children, even in that language. Some of them are so mixed up that you find some kids, they want to say something in English, they put a bit of the native tongue in English when they are growing up, and then gradually they succumb to the influence of the English language. So who we keep at home also will matter. The driver is not from your area, doesn't speak your tongue. The cook in the house doesn't speak your own language. The carers, so the children are confused.
Are we becoming more westernized because the internet seems to play a huge role? You go into homes now and you see kids on tablets, on devices. Is it the internet bringing up our kids right now because mommy and daddy are just so busy? Everyone around us or around the children are so busy, and they're learning stuff on the internet more than from society, from their parents.
Even if you do not expose them to the internet, the village is fast disappearing. The cultures are merging, so people are picking things from other cultures, and then the internet plays a lot of role too. But it's important for parents to also know what their children watch and the sites they go to. It's important. And when you have routines, maybe they go to school, they come back, you have music lessons, you have other things that you can afford, and you engage them. Okay, so you reduce the impact of the internet. Internet is influencing everything.
Everything.
And you're not going to go back.
Yeah. I'm interested to talk about the intertribal, intercultural marriages that we have. Titi, you mentioned that your dad's Yoruba, your mom is Delta. Do you speak her language at all?
No, I don't.
How come? She never spoke it to you, or?
She did. She did. The only thing she'd speak was come and eat. That's area or something.
What language is this?
That's Isoko.
Isoko.
Yes, or sit down or come. Those are the things that, because I would ask, okay, how do you say this? How do you say that in your language? And then she'll speak it to us. But it seemed a little bit complicated. And let me dive into Igbo now. I have Igbo friends, and they say some things. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And people will say, don't even bother because it's kind of hard to learn this language. And I'm like, no, I want to know something about it. And then there was a day I got to know that, okay, where are you going? There's Kabinaga, or something like that. And I said it to someone, but my English intonation was influencing that speech so badly that the person was a little bit confused, although the person understood that this is what the syllables are standing for, but is that what intonation is conveying? So the person said, what are you trying to ask me? And I said it again, and he said, are you trying to ask me where I'm going? And then he said,
Your mom was busy trying to understand your language, your father's language, the Yoruba language.
Well, maybe that was why. Maybe that was why.
Aisha, what about you? Are your kids fluent in their mother tongue, their native language?
Well, let's start from me.
Okay.
Because I'm the bigger culprit here.
You are?
My parents, my dad is from Nasarawa State, my mom is from Plateau.
Okay.
So I grew up just speaking English and Hausa because we grew up also in Kano. So I spoke more of fluently Hausa. I can read, write, and speak it fluently, and English too, and no other language.
Really?
Yes. So what I have now is she's speaking Hausa and English, and that's it.
Okay.
But she's trying to pick up the native language, which is Egon. She's trying to pick it up, and funny enough, she speaks it when we go to the village. She speaks, she understands, and maybe a bit of when she wants to gossip a bit and doesn't want me to know what she's saying, she can use the language without me understanding, which I find a bit of shame because I do wish someone would just open my head up and
it's so beautiful to be able to speak another person's language.
Yes,
it is.
It brings you closer, and it forms friendship.
Yes.
And it doesn't make you a stranger.
Exactly.
All right.
When there's a child out there that's not getting the same that your own child is getting, the difference will tell, and there will come a time in the society where that child is going to take its pound of flesh.
Where you can actually, everything from watching a program with the child, you can start up the conversation from something on the TV and say, oh, you know.
For me, it's like, hurry up with this business. And you know what I said? Actually, it's not about me, it's about the guys. They're not ready to marry.
So if she wants to ask something, no, I know my mother very well. In fact, the most interesting one is when I put up pictures on WhatsApp, you know, Snapchat filters and all that, she will call me. Leave that picture. I got tired of all that.
we're back in the conversation room. Titi, you had a valid point that you wanted to tell us.
Okay, yes, I believe that the home is the basic point, which I say is the foundation of socialization. Yes, and when we're talking about transfer of values, the parents have a vital role to play before you talk about any religious setting, peer group, or school. So, if you as a parent, you know the job that is on your shoulder, you know the responsibility on you, and with respect to bringing up your children right, you should work harder and make sure that you have a, shall I say, this balance between you and your children. You're not high-handed. They can talk to you. You can talk to them. There is a good scale of communication between both parties. And if there is anything that they're doing or they want to do, they'll always feel free to come and ask you or tell you about it. So that is one thing. That's one thing I want to point out. And there is a fear that parents can instill in their children that will always make the values you've given to them from home stick. No matter what anyone outside tells them. They always say, no, but my mom said this, my dad said this. So they want to stick with it. And it might get to a time that if it becomes too much, they might want to move out of what you've taught them from home. And when you see this, you don't have to come hard on them, say, I'm going to beat you up. Where did you get this? This is not what I taught you. What are you turning into? That should not be the way you should go out
comes
with them.
to mind.
Like what she said earlier, once you have that relationship, it opens the door for communication. Because you must be able to communicate with your children. Now, we talk about values. In a literal sense, a family must be known for something. Some people will say to you, this family is known for their honesty. This family is known for their hard work. You know, children are taught that hard work would pay. Children are taught that you have reward for doing your work, for working hard at school, even as an adult when you go to work, you know, in public service. So when they go out, you have enough trainings, enough that you have put inside the child, that the peer pressure, he will be able to survive. And then because you have communication, and then they are able to talk to you, that's what you're talking about. They come back to tell you. And I have more girls than boys. I have 3 girls and 2 boys. The first thing I did was to say to myself, I'm going to have a relationship with my children that will be like friends. Will be like friends. It won't be like the mother-daughter or mother-son relationship. And it helps because if they go to the cinema and somebody says hi, when they come back, you see that guy? He said hi. You know, so I'm able to say, listen, I don't want you to keep your friends outside the house. I want you to bring your friends home.
But are you able to connect with all 5 of them?
You will have frictions from time to time.
Especially with teenagers, sometimes it's a bit challenging.
But you know, they don't turn out the same. You have some that they are like adults, even as teenagers, they behave well. And then you have some that they want to do those things that you expect. But then this is where you come in as a parent to know where to give them the room to excel and express themselves and when to pull back. You see.
I remember waking, just a flashback from my childhood where, you know, if there's a drink in front of a guest and as a child you'd be looking at the drink like, oh, I want to, and like, I'll come and take, you know, you look at your mom and you see the glare. That was enough. She didn't need to say anything. I don't know if it was like that for you, Aisha, but
even I have conversations with my eyes with the kids.
There you
go. With the way you look at the kids, she knows whether you'll see after this, or that's not good, or that's good. With time, day in, day out, from your conversation, and then they know the one that means run. Because after this guest goes, I'll get to you.
Or have you come across this one that says, we'll meet at home? That
look like you collected it as
earlier I said to you, the fear of my mom was the beginning of wisdom. So that helped us, because even with the pressure, especially at the university, you want to do certain things that you know your mom must never hear of. You think of your mother and say, no, I will have a limit. I can't go beyond this, or I'm not going back to that woman's house. You know, so it's important for us to understand that for those who believe in God, it plays a role. And you know, for those who do not, they have things that guide them.
Guide them.
Yes.
Okay. But even as a nation, even as a person, a citizen of a nation, you have responsibilities to that country. So that's part of the values, because every nation has its own values. And once the family system is strengthened, then it comes out to the larger society.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a meeting or a gathering where a child goes to another person and starts eating from someone else's plate, and you're wondering, where is the mother? Usually they say, where is the mother? But I mean, the father plays an equally heavy role in this kind of thing. But most times, if the child doesn't meet up to standard, they always say,
where's the mother?
When he comes first in school, it's the
father. What happened? Why did that? How did that even evolve?
Because culturally, you've been given the responsibility of taking care and raising the children. But you know, a lot of men also pay attention to their children from the beginning. You know, they don't want to miss out on any stage, and that is good for the children to have a balanced training where you have both parents, you know, spending into their lives, putting in things that will help them towards adulthood. I raised my children in England. My kids used to say that I'm a local woman in Britain. Yes, I refuse to be civilized. Civilized to look away when a child is naughty, and when you're supposed to correct a child and you ignore the child. Oh, that's all right. It's not all right. There are ways that African mothers correct their children. You know, for the benefits of television. I don't want to say you were once. Okay, so you know, we had these children. They came into the house and they were jumping from one sofa, you know, all that. And the mother was there, and it didn't seem to bother her. So my kids were watching these boys, and they will watch me. Like, this is not the woman we know, but in the next few minutes something's going to happen. So one of them got up and went to the woman and said, take your children before my mom will flog them. You see, that tells me that even when you take them to another place, they wouldn't do that. They will control themselves. Because you come into a place and they tell you, oh, you can't touch your kids, you can't tell them off, you can't correct them, because, oh, they will call the police, oh, they will call welfare. I had to dramatize at a point. Went outside and told them I was calling welfare to come and pick them up. You know, because one was being naughty at school, he would not pay attention, you know. So, and I said, if you am afraid of calling the police, because you will call the police, let me call them first. And that helped me. I didn't have all that problems, and they didn't get into any trouble.
Aisha, what are your thoughts on sleepovers for the kids?
Not very comfortable with that.
Really?
Because I first of all have to be friends with the mother of my child's friend.
That's a prerequisite for you?
Yes. I have to know the family, because we can't just let our kids out there on their own, because most cases abuse on our kids, whether it's a male child or female child, starts with someone they're familiar with. So we have to be really comfortable about where we let our kids go to, most especially spending the whole night there.
What if it's mandatory, like from school, and they have to do that, spend some time with some of their schoolmates? The school is aware, the parents are invited in to introduce them to each other, and maybe there's a camp and they're camping.
I remember once the kids had to be at a party with their classmates, so we said we wanted some parents to be there for supervision, and I quickly raised my hand up. So I was one of the parents who sat there while the kids were jumping up and down, and I stayed last to make sure that every kid was picked up and taken home before I left for my own house. We have to make some sacrifices sometimes for our kids. We have to go the extra length. We have to put in an extra ear and extra eyes. So
I know in my case, sleepovers, not so much. Even in fact, whenever it was I asked to go out, you know, spend 2 days to pray and hope that they say yes, but the answer 90% of the time was no. You can't go anywhere.
We had my mom had a very funny bell, you know, 5:30. You don't want to hear that bell, you know.
And what's the bell for?
To come out and pray.
Okay,
that was the system.
Ours was an alarm clock from my dad's phone. It's just a da-na-na-na-na. The sound was so annoying.
Did you look forward to it?
No matter how deep you sleep, you wake up.
But did you look forward to it?
at the time, no. But you have no choice. You know, she will stand at a central place to do that, expecting all of us to run out to come and pray. Then when she'll give us time and then she doesn't see anybody, then she starts going from room to room, and then you know she's coming. There's always a pillow on hand to cover your ears, and if that's not enough, she start knocking on the door. And then after a while, you know, you'll be fooling yourself to lie back on the bed. Just get up.
Just get up, yeah.
Get up and do it. And then again, it became a norm.
Yeah. Were you able to transfer that in your own home?
Yes, because that's it has, and nobody wants me to ring the bell. So they come. We have a time.
Okay.
This time we pray.
Okay.
And then bring yourself to pray.
To pray.
And then so age has taught us that most of those things we didn't like as adolescents, as young adults, we love them now so much.
Yes,
we want
right.
to impute them in our own kids, and
Very
then
true.
we get the same kind of resistance, but they also get to a certain age because we insist.
Yeah.
They get to a certain age and they become like us.
Yeah.
Because they
And
begin to understand
they
the
begin to
benefits.
understand
Yeah.
and
of
appreciate
those
the
things,
benefits.
Dr. Chidima, you mentioned having 2 boys. How many of them know how to cook?
My first son bakes, actually.
Bakes?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Nice.
He's a classical musician.
Okay.
Yes. He lives in the LA, in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And so he bakes a lot, and then he makes steaks, wonderful steaks.
And he learned from you, or it's
From
just
us
something
in the
that...
house, because they were not raised like, okay, just the girls or the boys. And I had 2 other stepchildren, 2 girls. So I raised them as children. Okay, and we're in England, and you don't have all the house elves and all that
Yes,
to do
very
that.
true.
So you had to do your work, and we had duties, you know, specified for people to do. You know, they clean when they need to clean, and you know, because that was how we were raised.
Yeah.
We had people living with us that we actually thought were related to us, but my mother made sure that you did your work. So, and we had. She used to give us, we were in charge of our kitchens weekly. This will be your turn, Nikki. This is your turn.
There was a roaster.
There was roaster.
Yeah, roaster.
You know, so I grew up with that, and now I love to cook. I love to clean.
I know we did a lot of chores Saturday morning in my house. I don't know if it was like that for you, Titi, but I mean, there's no sitting and watching TV on a Saturday morning. It was it was not done.
Before your work is done.
Yes, you have to finish your chores before.
Definitely. On Saturday mornings, that's the normal thing. You just know that, okay, there's something to do, this and that to do. It even went as far as cleaning that car. Yes, it wasn't that he says, come and clean my car, but that energy, that
You know how
vibe
to
to
clean a
always,
car?
yes, that energy and vibe to always work in the house. And I say, oh, Daddy is not taking his car to the car wash, I'm going to clean it. It got to a time, I did a very good job, and Daddy would say, well done. Because the first time he didn't say well done, he didn't say anything. He just, oh, you cleaned the car. The second time, well done. And since then, he always look forward to me cleaning the car, and I do it very perfectly.
wow.
Later on, I always bring my younger sisters along. Okay, let's do this very quickly. That reduced the labor. So that was good. She was talking about waking up very early.
Yes.
And then I'm like, okay, I'm an example of good values being transferred to me, because I cannot sleep beyond 5 o'clock, 5 a.m.
5?
Yes, I'm awake.
Wow.
So whatever has to be done in the morning, I'm doing it. And it's also working for me in school.
Yeah.
So and people are like, don't you sleep? And I'm like, I have
helps
to
you
wake
redeem
up
the
early.
time.
Yes. So while they're lagging behind in so many things,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm way ahead
Yes.
of them. So that was a value being transferred to me, and I'm like, I like it. And she also said something. She said some of those things that the parents would tell you to do those days that you didn't like. There are things you like now. I am happy that I was obedient then, even though at one time it was a little bit hard and difficult. Yes, and I was a little bit obstinate. But later I'll think about it. Oh, those things that says, those things Mom says, they're really true. And I enjoyed the fact that I paid attention to them, because right now in the university, I tend to see those things that my parents were trying to guide me against, people are falling victim of it. But to me, I'm having this boldness, and I have this restriction, like, no, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do this, this is wrong. So
That's a
that is
core
a
values.
good transfer of values to me, and I'm happy.
Oh, awesome. When we get back, we're going to be talking about what it's like to be an adolescent in today's Nigeria. This is Conversations on NTA, and we'll be right back.
When there's a child out there that's not getting the same that your own child is getting, The difference will tell, and there will come a time in the society where that child is going to take its pound of flesh.
Where you can actually, everything from watching a program with the child, you can start up the conversation from something on the TV and say, oh, you know.
For me, it's like, hurry up with this business. And the other one said, Auntie, it's not about me, it's about the guys, they're not ready to marry.
So if she wants to ask something, no, I know my mother very well. In fact, the most interesting one is when I put up pictures on WhatsApp, you know, Snapchat filters and all that, she will call me. Remove that picture. I got tired of all that. And I said,
This is Conversations on NTA. Now, our next topic is about adolescence and growing up. Now, for me, I have to say, I didn't make it very easy for my parents. I was a little rebellious. So, you know, why are you telling me what to do? Why are you picking up the phone on the other end to listen to me? My dad was commander-in-chief of eavesdropping. You know, he could hear through walls. You know, and that really used to upset me. But he kept close tabs on us as kids, and it helped me. It molded me to be the woman that I am today. But at that phase in life, it seems like they're all up in your face. You have raised...
Thank God for mobile phone.
You've raised 7. I mean, I can imagine what it was like moving from, you know, just as one is leaving that phase, then another one goes in and another one.
Most of them very close.
Very close in age.
Yes, thank God for mobile phones. So, you know, it was easy to eavesdrop on landlines. So our parents did that. Yes. But now you have mobile phones and somebody will pick it and go down the road. So that's on the phone. It was, it's a mixed bag, you know. Remember, it's a transition from childhood to adulthood. So, and you have the first phase, the middle phase, and the latter phase. They all have different behavioral patterns. So, and as they're going through that, there are physiological changes as well as physical changes. So I will define it as a time of change, age of change, where anything is possible and all things are possible.
And your baby that you see as a baby is no longer, doesn't want to be treated as a
baby.
Like
and then there are questions that they begin to ask you that you're probably not prepared for. And questions that, things they want to know about you. Because sometimes, I have a naughty one, my last daughter, she will come up and say, Mom, you know, they said you were very hot as a young woman. They said you used to travel so much. They said, I said, who told you that? You were not there. But I'm here with you, so I know about you. So, you know, because you want to say to them, don't do this. And then when you were this age, did you not?
Yes.
But then I had encouragement because most of them were very helpful. So they assisted me to cope with the other ones who almost drove me crazy.
Titi, what about you? Any stories about your adolescent days?
See, since there are the mothers in the house, I was just thinking, who knows how many of this is going to fall on me now?
Yes,
thank you. Growing up as an adolescent was a beautiful time, I'd say, because you got to see, or my parents got to see all the different parts of Titi, got to see everything that Titi could be, and I didn't like to hide myself, but I always got all the should I say criticisms that will come very hard on me, and it would be better for Dad to flog me than for him to scold me, because if he did scold me, I'll go look for somewhere to hide and cry. Do you know why? Because I'll keep thinking about all the words he said, everything he said, and like, the things I did it merit the things he said? So but it was also good to see that my parents were understanding, and after they scold me, they could tell me, okay, this is why you shouldn't do this, this is why you shouldn't do that. So that was good. But that was not the same for many other adolescents that I know. They were fond of hiding things from their parents. So and this brought me to this core value that I had, and I said, if I had to do anything behind their backs, it means it was bad.
Yeah.
But if I did it in front of them, then it was okay. I'm ready to take whatever they're going to say about it. I don't want to know what the repercussion will be, but I'm sure if I'm corrected that this step is wrong, I'm going to step back from it. So, but let me tell you, it was not at the beginning of my adolescence that I decided to do this. It wasn't, okay? I did, of course, there were naughty things that I did, okay? There were times that I would question my mom. There were times that I would raise my voice, especially if she raised the voice at me. I would raise my voice at her too, okay? And that was not right, okay?
But then it sounded right.
Yes, it did sound
believed
right.
she was
I
right.
felt I was right. I thought I was right. And when it gets escalating, when it's escalated to a point, I'll just fall back. Like, I just did that to mom. I just sounded. this is what
That
I did.
reality
That was,
check that comes
yes,
to you. I know.
that is wrong.
And you know
Okay.
about this phase, adolescence, is also when your child gets a lot of attention from the opposite sex.
Yeah.
Managing
Yes,
that.
we become very
managing that
conscious.
Yes, of your appearance.
Yes.
I mean, it's a different ballgame altogether. Handling that, like the Western people say, the birds and the bees, and having that kind of talk with your
It's
child.
actually a very difficult time
yeah.
for them.
It gets really confusing.
Yeah.
And so that's a time when we need to be firm and also friendly. We have to be at our best with them and extra patient, because we've been discussing how friendships between mothers and daughters help.
Yeah.
And that's when it comes into play the most. But also while we're being friends with our daughters, then we draw the line, and they know that there's this line that you can't step. If you
That's
step
where
over
the
that
values
line,
you've inculcated
Yes.
comes to play.
so we're good friends because I need you to be able to tell me everything, but then there's also a certain line. For example, she mentioned shouting back at the mom, and then going back to later and ask herself, why did I do this? Because the
we've
values are there.
experienced all that.
But then when I know you can write a book
I have experienced all
what
that.
I hate is for me to scold you and you start crying. And I'll start asking, okay, you thought you were right and I was wrong. That's why you're crying. If I scold you over something you do, you should say you're sorry, not to go crying, because by crying you're trying to say, I've been victimized.
That might not be.
Would you prefer someone to cry or stomp off
Yes,
in
that might
anger?
not be. That might be. That might be.
Okay, can I
being
say something
aware.
about that? Okay, she said she wouldn't like a child crying when she's scolded. You never know. A child could look all tough on the outside, but
Yes,
they're
very
really,
quiet.
really soft on the
Soft
inside.
inside.
As for me, that was the child I was.
Okay,
Okay,
understand.
so if you
That
hit me,
defined the cry.
yeah, if you hit me with something that is maybe I did something I didn't see it as that. I didn't see it that great.
just
I didn't-
realize it.
and I realized it all because of the statements you uttered. I would really break down on the inside and I'll cry. And after, I'll come and say, I'm sorry I did that. I'm not going to do
You're a
it again.
special case because some of mine never came back. Really, never came back and said sorry.
Say, mommy, I'm sorry.
No. Some did, some didn't.
Some you have to actually beg the apology out of them.
No, they actually.
So-
I don't have to beg it out of because I'm not willing to do it at that time. And you must know when not to push, and just let it go
Yeah.
for now, and then find a time to talk to them. The truth is, they need your help at this time.
Yes.
They do not understand the changes that are going on, even the body physically.
Yeah.
They do not understand. My first son came and asked me a question that I ran out of there. I didn't have an answer for.
Really?
Yes, I said, listen, fortunately you have a father. That question is for him.
Okay.
But the way I had to pull back, and when he left, I went into my room. I said, my son has grown. You understand? But because of our friendship, he didn't quite understand the implication of what he wanted me to tell him.
Okay.
But then I couldn't. I wanted his father to tell him at the
tell
time.
him, yeah.
So it's a time of vulnerability. They are open to so many things. And so it's a time to also listen to them. Sometimes we don't listen as parents.
Yeah.
I can tell you that sometimes I don't listen.
Okay.
They will say to me, listen more. I say, okay, today I will listen.
Okay.
I will, and then you'll be shocked.
And a lot of mothers aren't good with that,
No.
listening.
No,
It's-
no.
Yeah,
They want
they
you to
do
get to
want-
the point.
Yeah.
Get to the point.
Yeah.
In a hurry.
In a hurry. Get to the point because you're afraid, of what they are not telling you. But if you calm down with them, because it's a time that they're exposed to a lot of things, like you said, relationships, emotions. That's when they begin to learn how to manage their emotions.
What about the birds and the bees talk? They talk about sex. They talk about their bodies. At which age is an appropriate age to talk to your adolescent about that? Or do you leave it to the school teachers?
Not really. But the school, they're always in a hurry to tell.
They are. You're not quite ready, and they come
budging
and they come to ask questions.
Exactly.
But whenever they ask, please answer.
Don't know what your reaction is going to be.
It still hurts though.
Yeah, but they're also adults now, getting into adults, and they must have friends. They start building relationships, and they must have people they trust. Not explicitly, not as much as they trust their parents. If there's a good relationship and the communication is open.
Yes.
Like my mom used to do something. If she noticed that your behavior is a little bit strange from what she's been noticing in the past few days, she would start talking about some things that are in line with what you might be going through. And before you know it, you
she
have
heard
to...
something.
I don't know, but so she'll just keep talking to you about it in a very friendly manner, crack a lot of jokes, and before you know it, you're talking about it.
Yes,
It spills the whole bin.
So when women say, "Oh, but I'm your mother," you can tell me, is that really true? Sometimes the woman now, does a 360 turn, and after you've told her, and then you get disciplined for that.
She might not discipline you that day, but when you do something else, then she will remember what you told.
And that hurts.
Yes, I know, because I experienced that.
I tend to be that kind of cool auntie. My nieces talk to me, then I, watch my sister. I gauge when is a good time to talk to her about things that I've heard or challenges, and then
and you also know how to place it to her. So
exactly.
And that's the idea of going to the good auntie, because you know that she's going to soften it before it gets to your mom.
Yes.
She'll come in the coy way, say this, say that, and not really say it the way you said it, but nicer. The way she knows your mom will accept it because they're both adults and she understands. So.
I have a story about my own adolescence when my period started. I don't know how many of you have similar stories where it wasn't my mom though, but someone was like, if you start your period, don't go near man. No.
Oh yeah.
If he touches you,
yes,
you get pregnant. I don't know if you have any similar stories to that. And it shocked me into. So my period, I'm just like staying away from everyone until it's all over.
Even at a debating society, after we had to be debated, and then there was the time to dance, and I just went to the corner of the hall to sit, and then someone came to me, a friend of mine, said, "Why are you not dancing?" I said, "Well, my mom says once you start your period, no man should hold you." And that was in secondary school. Hold me. Even to dance and hold me, that was enough to get me pregnant. That was the extent of the fear that she put it. So today, if you tell a child that, if I tell you that, you will know I'm of course.
Yes. Because that's way too much. Yes. I could go and touch someone right now in the room. Is something going to happen to me? That would be a direct proof.
But way back then, there wasn't, you have no internet. There wasn't internet to cross-check these things. So you
aside the internet, you have this fear of your parents, and whatever they tell you, you just have to believe it. It's just the truth.
It's the absolute truth.
I started very early.
Okay.
I was in primary school when it came.
Oh, wow.
And mine wasn't the issue of if you touch a guy, you're going to get pregnant. My own was shame. How can this thing come to me at this time?
Wow.
Okay. So it made me so ill, I landed in the hospital for a day. And the doctor said, "Did you see any blood?" I said, "Where?" He said, "Any blood coming out of your body?" I denied it.
Oh, wow.
Not me. And up till the time I left the hospital, I was still denying that I didn't see anything. But then I was 9.
Okay.
Wow.
So I was confused and then.
So you ended up in the hospital out of shame or because you weren't feeling physically?
It made me feverish.
Oh.
It gave me a lot of fever.
Yeah.
So, but I was at my auntie's then. So, but when I came home, I told my mom. She was a nurse, and I know that this thing was open. But I told her, but I didn't see any reason why I should tell the doctor that I had started. And even when I moved, a year later, I went into secondary school. And they would ask, "Who has started?" My hand never went up.
Why? You didn't have a conversation with your mother?
I did, but it was, she didn't push it further.
Okay.
So I left it like that. But by the time I was 12, then I said,
you had friends.
Yes. And also, I came home on holiday one day and my godmother left tiny little bra for me. Look, it was a pink one.
Oh.
So I was really proud to wear it, and then I owned up to the fact that yes,
All right,
I'm
we're
becoming
becoming
a woman.
Yeah, we are becoming a woman.
It's a very serious issue.
And getting them to open up is another challenge in
Yes,
itself. If they don't want to
Yeah.
tell you, the chances are that they won't tell you. I had that moment where I just wasn't talking to my mom because I felt, well, she doesn't understand me. You know, I think she's too hard on me. You know, that kind of thing. But I mean, with time now, she's my closest.
Yeah.
I'm
I
much
thank
closer
God
to
for
her.
good
That's-
teachers,
yeah.
good schools. You know, good teachers, they pay attention.
Yeah.
They also see the red flags, and they speak up.
Doctor, was there anything you'd have loved to do differently during your adolescent years?
I never felt sorry. Yes, I never felt sorry, and I felt my mom was too strict, and I felt that she was stopping me from doing what other children
We're
were doing. You
Yeah.
see, so I had that against her, and then when I got married and I had my first child, a girl, I brought her to the house, and that day I still regret not taking photographs because I had my grandmother, had my mother, had myself and my daughter, all four generations of women,
Yes.
and I was scolding my daughter, and my mom was just looking at me like this, you know. And when I finished, I said, "What were you looking at me like?" I said, "Well, for that reason, you ran out of the house,
The same reason.
you know." At a bigger stage,
Yes.
you know, she said she was so upset with me when I just moved out of the house and moved to my auntie's place in Kano, the lady I talked about
Yes.
earlier. So I just went to her place in Kano to stay because my mom was too harsh. I wish I even understood it then because I
Yeah.
caused her pain.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. I caused her pain. But towards the end of her time, she's no longer here. Towards the end of her time, we had time to talk about some of the
Yeah.
things. And in fact, at the end of the day, it was in my house that she came and she died in my house.
Oh.
Yeah, so we had time to make up. I wasn't very easy to manage.
Oh.
You know, and then, but thank God he didn't revisit that to me because my children have turned out very well. Even the ones that gave me a little bit of headache, after a while, they were fine.
They were fine. Aisha, any final thoughts to parents of adolescents that are listening to conversations?
We must, I'd say I have an open relationship with my daughter. Okay. We're friends, but she remembers all the time that I'm the mother. So we talk a lot. We talk about everything. Like she said, when my child goes out and a guy says hello, they come and say, "Oh, that guy said hello to me."
That's right.
We have that kind of relationship.
Okay.
And so, because of that, when she remembers the love we have and the friendship we have, she tries to, it gives her a dividing line between going overboard and being on the side that pleases the parents.
Yeah.
And luckily for us, it's she's realized that she's passed that stage where you say, my parents, they are too harsh or they're too. So we must always try to develop the friendship between us and our children,
Be friends with
because in this age of internet and all other influences outside, it's that friendship and love that helps us to keep them in check.
Okay, Titi, I know you're not an adolescent anymore, but if there was anything you would want to say to the parents listening as an adolescent,
Okay.
what would you say?
A father has a role to play in the life of a child.
Yeah,
the
I
mother
agree.
also, but I wish the parents could reduce the weight they put on their own self-importance as parents over their children, because it brings this kind of gap between them. So we should try to fill in that gap with friendship. You'll always be the father. You don't know how horrible it is when you hear a girl who is no longer an adolescent, but maybe she's had a very bad time, rough time during,
Yeah.
yes, and then she says she doesn't even care if her father dies.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know, that's terrible. Okay,
do
but
hear that from time to time,
she'll always love her mom. Her mom is her best friend because her mom has always been there. Her mom has always had her back when maybe dad was the very harsh one. Okay, so I'd wish the parents could always bring in that friendship. And whenever they remove the bad friends from you, they should bring in something to fill in that gap, to engage the children more, maybe get a skill or something.
Yeah, keep them occupied.
Yes.
Okay, doctor, having raised 7 children of you, tell us some final thoughts to anyone listening to conversations.
Pay attention to them. Pay attention, listen to them. Listen is important. They might not say the things you want to hear, but it's good that you listen. Get to know their friends, bad or good. Get to know their friends. Share, make it possible for them to be comfortable to talk to you. It's important. Okay, and then always remember that you are the mother. There's always a limit. When you need to raise your voice, please go ahead. And sometimes I tell people, I do not need a microphone to speak. Having raised 7 children, I know how to shout.
That's really interesting. What I'm taking away from all this is that communication is key.
Very important.
You have an adolescent a bit withdrawn. You need to find out what exactly is going on in the life of that child. It's very important. So let's, as much as possible, try to connect with our children at home. This is Conversations. Remember, we would love to hear from you on our social media platforms. It's available on the screen right now. I'll be signing off, and I hope to see you again in the conversation room where we talk about something really good. I'll leave my ladies to say goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us in the show.
Thank you very much.
I remain Nike, and see you another time.
are watching NTA, Nigerian Television Authority. For more information and news updates, visit our website at www.nta.ng, or you can follow us on Twitter at NTA News Now, or you can like us on Facebook at NTA Network News. Stay connected on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com.